She lost an election, and now she's projecting. Hillary Clinton went on The View this week, which immediately raises a serious question. What's the weight capacity for that stage? But you'll never guess what she talked about. Her love of gardening, the things she does to stay healthy, how much she adores catching and cooking stray kittens. Nah, it was Donald Trump, as expected. But it's like I always tell Taylor Swift, girl, you gotta move on. Seriously, Trump doesn't just live in Hillary's brain. He's built a 500-unit condo with in-unit laundry and a rooftop lounge.
When Greg Gutfeld sets his sights on a target, even the most untouchable political figures find themselves in the crosshairs, and Hillary Clinton is no exception. Armed with razor-edged humor and an unapologetic dose of truth, Gutfeld slices through the carefully crafted fad of political stagecraft. He doesn't just call out the smirks and scripted sound bites, he dismantles them. From the infamous email debacle to globe-spanning missteps, every chapter of her political saga is fair game. With a sly grin and a perfectly timed punchline, Gutfeld turns critique into a full-scale comedic blitz. And once he starts, there's no safe exit.
Registered voters said any Republican would be better than President Biden, prompting one woman to legally change her name to NE Republican. Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and tap that bell icon so you never miss a moment. Now, picture this. You roll out of bed, stretch like a champion, grab that overpriced Starbucks latte you swore you'd quit, and think you know what the world really needs. More pearls of wisdom from Hillary Clinton. Because nothing says national unity quite like a political veteran who's spent years sidestepping controversies with the agility of a raccoon, navigating a midnight trash can raid.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
And right on cue, Greg Gutfeld stepped up, gleefully swinging the wrecking ball like it was his weekend hobby. But this wasn't your average takedown, it was a Category 5 comedic storm, equal parts verbal arson and public spectacle, executed with the delicate touch of a wrecking ball in a shop full of crystal chandeliers. Sparks flew, jaws dropped, and the air practically smelled of scorched reputation. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's still a Clinton on the menu, ready to be flam-ed.
Warning signals that you were gonna lose? Well, too bad you didn't bother to visit the states you ended up losing, you potato-shaped wine bag. But would he even be worse now?
I think that he'd be even worse now.
Yeah.
Because he was somewhat restrained, believe it or not,
Wow.
in the first term by people who he hired because he thought they would go along with him. And
If political comebacks were an Olympic sport, Hillary Clinton would be the reigning champion of missing the basket by a mile. Like clockwork, every 4 years she reappears, as if stepping out of political hibernation, draped in a brand new pantsuit and armed with a freshly polished aura of moral superiority. It's a spectacle that borders on poetic. If poetry were scrawled in Comic Sans by a think tank of consultants who couldn't pass Ethics 101, the script changes, the wardrobe updates, but the performance, unmistakably familiar.
They're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing
Baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it. and it starts causing some real damage.
But on the
Let's take a little stroll down memory lane, shall we? Back to that golden era when private email servers quietly hummed away in basement corners. Benghazi was just another distant name on a map, and delete wasn't merely a key, it was practically a way of life. Because nothing says public trust quite like making 30,000 emails disappear faster than a teenager scrambling to erase text messages before their mom walks into the room. History, as they say, has its own peculiar sense of humor.
what will happen if Trump is reelected? Which is odd because Hillary's an expert on not getting elected. I wonder, does she think it would end our country as we know it?
I think it would be the end of our country as we know it. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I hated losing, and I especially hated losing to him because I had seen so many warning signals during the campaign.
Greg didn't pause for a heartbeat. His eyes sparkled with the kind of mischief you see right before someone lights the fuse. It was the political equivalent of dropping a fistful of Mentos into a 2-liter of Diet Coke. Only here, the Coke was Hillary's legacy, and the Mentos were truth bombs rolled in pure sarcasm. No hesitation, no mercy. He tore through decades of carefully choreographed Clinton PR the way you'd rip open a crinkly bag of chips. Flavor of the day, sour cream, with a side of electoral delusion.
Lefties always get all the commencement addresses, and they love to spout their opinions on award shows because they know there's no journalist there that will ask them a question. And the reason why, and he's the perfect example, none of their opinions are actually real. They are all assigned.
Now, let's rewind to the 2016 election, better known as the plot twist that sent shockwaves through Sunday brunch tables from coast to coast. Hillary Clinton wasn't just expected to win. It was treated as a foregone conclusion. The victory lap was already storyboarded. Hollywood had its champagne chilled, think pieces were half written, and somewhere, the ghost of FEDR was probably drafting a congratulatory tweet. But in a glorious display of unpredictability, the American public collectively shrugged and said, "Yeah, no, and Hillary? Oh, she took it in stride, if stride means spending the next 5 years touring the globe, penning memoirs, and blaming everything from Macedonian content farms to FBI memos." Her post-election blame list read like a surreal variety show: James Comey, sexism, the Russians, misogynistic Wi-Fi routers, gluten intolerance, and at one point possibly even gravity itself. Enter Greg Gutfeld, wielding his roast like a kid at Chuck E. Cheese with unlimited tokens. No talking point was safe. Every recycled excuse, every limp post-election hot take was skewered, stripped, and tossed into the compost pile of bad political theater. Nothing quite like turning a nation into a Mad Max sequel and calling it a masterclass in diplomacy.
Democratic Party's pocket since Hillary stopped having sex.
That's like decades.
Yeah. Losing the union endorsement is like P. Diddy running out of baby oil. There's a whole lot of friction ahead. When Teamsters polled their members about the Dems' new candidate, Cackles McKnee pads.
And, of course, we can't skip over the Clinton Foundation, that shimmering lighthouse of, well, what exactly? Altruism, radical transparency, or perhaps just a masterfully branded family enterprise wearing the costume of a charity, operating with all the efficiency of a DMV engulfed in flames. Millions of dollars flowed in, and yet, somehow, the world remained decidedly unfixed. Coincidence? Unlikely. Greg, brimming with the giddy energy of a kid tearing open a box marked hypocrisy, dove right in. He reminded everyone that Hillary's lucrative Wall Street speeches were less inspiring stateswoman and more luxury-tier customer service rep reading reassurances off a gold-plated teleprompter, six-figure comfort food for the banking elite. The political equivalent of a lullaby for billionaires, sung in perfect monotone, with surgical precision. He stripped away the layers of carefully polished narrative like peeling an onion of ambition, ego, and ironic detachment. And yes, there were tears, but not from sentiment, only from the audience, doubled over, wheezing with laughter at the sheer audacity of it all.
The creator of the plan was Julianne Smith,
a Clinton policy advisor that the unclassified Durham report refers to as Foreign Policy Advisor 1. And this woman, look how happy she is. She's like, I got away with everything. I nailed it. And then Obama made me the liaison to NATO. I mean, not Obama, Biden. Like I continue to get employed by these people because all I do is sit around and do the illicit bidding of my Democrat power.
Let's not overlook her sudden reinvention as a self-proclaimed champion of truth. The irony is almost gourmet coming from someone who once claimed to be dead broke while holding a real estate portfolio that could rival a monopoly board. Hillary's relationship with truth is like a vegan at a Texas BBQ, uncomfortable, strained, and riddled with contradictions. Yet somehow, she still manages to position herself as a voice of moral clarity in politics. That's like showing up as the designated driver at a demolition derby. It sounds noble, but you're still parked in the middle of chaos. Greg's takedown of this persona was surgical and merciless, like watching a roast on the History Channel. Educational, yes, but with an aftertaste of sharp, well-placed punchlines. He reminded us oh so casually that Hillary has been tangled in more scandals than most soap operas, only with worse acting. Every relatable moment feels manufactured, as if brainstormed by a PR team, approved by a focus group, and tested on lab rats for authenticity. Whether it's sipping beer at a dive bar, riding the subway, or breathing oxygen, it all has the faint scent of choreography.
Is wild. This is Hillary Clinton in like 2008, and Hillary Clinton saying some wild MAGA type shit.
Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone. If they...
She's a Republican.
If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. And you have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
You have to wait in line. You have to wait in line. It's
You couldn't believe that.
illusion.
But the crown jewel, the Pi-C-D assistance of Gutfeld's roast, came when he lobbed a rhetorical Molotov cocktail straight at Hillary's uncanny gift for turning everything she touches into political compost. Endorse a candidate? They lose faster than a rookie poker player at a Vegas table. Back a policy? It sinks with the grace of an anvil in a swimming pool. It's as if she's been personally hexed by the gods of irony. If Hillary endorsed gravity itself, we'd all be floating by Tuesday. Meanwhile, over at Clinton HQ, the strategy appears to be carved in stone: deny everything, deflect constantly, and above all never, under any circumstances, take responsibility. She's like a magician whose entire act is making accountability, credibility, and thousands of emails disappear in a puff of plausible deniability. Is it unfair to lay every political mishap at her feet? Probably. Is it entertaining? Oh, without question. Watching a figure who's been in politics since the days of dial-up internet still sell herself as the fresh face of change is like watching a VHS tape try to outdance TikTok. And the media chorus? A hyper-caffeinated cheer squad, echoing her every word no matter how poorly it lands.
Of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 16.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
She, first of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate.
Greg didn't even break a sweat. He delivered the hits with the kind of effortless sarcasm that slices deeper than a tax audit during the holidays. The beauty of it? Hillary wasn't even in the room to clap back, nor did she need to be. The roast was cooked to perfection. Gordon Ramsay himself might have stood up and slow clapped. And yet, like the recurring antagonist in a never-ending political sitcom, she will return probably just in time to drop another memoir titled "You Thought I Was Done." Spoiler alert, she wasn't. The saga rolls on. Because as long as Hillary keeps stepping back into the spotlight with the elegance of a malfunctioning Roomba, there will always be a Greg Gutfeld waiting to hand her the microphone before casually setting the stage ablaze. We'll be there, too, popcorn in hand, watching the slow-motion train wreck of political ambition blissfully unburdened by self-awareness. After all, nothing says, "I'm done with politics," quite like appearing in every news cycle, haunting the airwaves like a political Furby you can't turn off. And those endless interviews? They're pure gold insight delivered with the energy of a Monday morning quarterback, nursing a grudge and armed with a thesaurus.
Hillary would have been a good choice
No.
either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely full of shit. She's been full of shit.
She glides onto the stage in a meticulously tailored blazer, armed with a few carefully engineered sentences, each one dripping with passive-aggressive wisdom. Then comes that smile, the kind that suggests she just remembered exactly where the bodies are buried. Figuratively, of course. Probably. What makes it all so remarkable, what elevates it from performance to performance art, is the reaction. The crowd nods solemnly, as if she's just cured world hunger with a single, market-tested sound bite. She'll toss out lines like, "We must protect democracy," which, coming from her, lands less like a rallying cry and more like a phishing email disguised as a TED Talk. The subtext always seems to hum beneath the surface. Democracy didn't fail because of her, democracy failed her. Meanwhile, Greg's roast didn't just poke a few discreet holes in the act. It tore the entire facade clean off, hurled it into the Hudson River, and then passed out binoculars so the crowd could watch it drift away. He resurrected every skeleton polite society prefers to leave buried, the donor pay to play whispers, the shadowy connections, and presented them with the charm of someone who's clearly read the fine print. Every time her camp tried to rebrand her as the wise elder stateswoman, Gutfeld was there, ready with receipts.
She puts out this tweet, and it's a picture of her, a much younger Hillary, and the caption on the hat reads, "But her emails." And she writes in her tweet, "Bringing this back in light of recent news. Get a limited edition But Her Emails hat and support Onward Together groups working to strengthen our democracy." The nerve of this woman to have committed federal crimes and to have gotten off because James Comey didn't have the spine to bring it.
Greg reminded America that she's less Jedi Master and more corporate HR rep, the kind who keeps a color-coded spreadsheet of grudges paired with a Gmail account that's one accidental reply all away from chaos. And the crowd devoured it. Why? Because finally, someone said aloud what's usually whispered under the table at Thanksgiving. Sandwiched between the mashed potatoes and an awkward political debate, the Hillary Clinton political arc has morphed into a never-ending PowerPoint deck of contradictions. Champion of women, unless those women accuse someone in her inner circle. Defender of truth, unless that truth comes neatly packaged in a subpoena. Fighter for the people, so long as those people are pre-approved donors with pristine Wi-Fi, deep pockets, and an invitation to the right fundraiser. And here's the most mouth-watering irony of all. After decades of branding, rebranding, pivoting, and strategic silence, Hillary Clinton has still dodged the one quality that might have saved her public image: genuine humility. Greg's roast didn't just sting, it was precision comedy with the accuracy of a heat-seeking missile. It worked because it wasn't just a barrage of jokes. It was a mirror she spent decades sidestepping. And when the smoke cleared, when the final punchline detonated and the audience stopped clutching their ribs from laughter, what stood tall wasn't the consultant-approved truth trotted out for cameras, but the raw, unvarnished reality. Maybe Hillary Clinton isn't the misunderstood savior of democracy she imagines herself to be. Maybe she's simply the loudest voice in the room who can't take a hit. Because in the theater of political drama, Hillary doesn't just bring the tea, she is the tea. Bitter, oversteeped, and impossible to ignore.